David, today Congressman Mike Gallagher announced he will be sending a letter to the Postmaster General after his office received multiple complaints from constituents about not receiving their mail.
In the letter, Gallagher states many residents in Sturgeon Bay have not received consistent mail service for up to 3 weeks. In the First Alert update, Samantha Cavalli attended a news conference held by the congressman to hear what's being done at the federal level.
You know, it is interfering with people's everyday lives.
Since November, multiple people in Sturgeon Bay have not received their mail for days, sometimes weeks at a time. Congressman Mike Gallagher, State Representative Joel Kitchens, and Sturgeon Bay Mayor David Ward have all received multiple complaints. Gallagher says he's had more than 20 complaints come into his office of people not getting their bills or medication on time.
But when a veteran calls my office and says they're worried because they won't receive their prescriptions on time because of inconsistent mail service, that's not just highly concerning, it's completely unacceptable.
Congressman Gallagher has sent a letter to Postmaster General Louis DeJoy asking him to address his constituents' concerns.
We spent months now requesting a briefing from the Postal Service to hear the plan of action. Those requests have been met with silence, and it's time to explore additional avenues to rectify this issue.
Representative Kitchens says he has talked with local post office leaders who say they've hired additional workers to deliver mail throughout Sturgeon Bay, but it's not enough.
They will tell you when we've called the post office that they have, they're short on workers, have not been able to hire, and that is the job market. I mean, it used to be if a job opened up in the post office, they'd have dozens of applicants, and I don't think that's the case anymore.
Both Kitchens and Gallagher agree it's clear this problem needs to be fixed as soon as possible.
I understand the challenges that weather and staffing may pose to mail delivery here in Sturgeon Bay. Additionally, I'm confident each and every postal carrier is doing everything in their power to help deliver routes. However, the issue is not new. It's now gone on for multiple months, and it's become clear to me that further action has to be taken.
Congressman Gallagher hopes he hears back from the Postmaster General sometime next week to discuss next steps. In Sturgeon Bay, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.